On this episode of Deleted WrestleZone, we're going to talk about this past Wednesday Night War featuring AEW's Dynamite and NXT. What matches were good from both sides? So, let's get started with an episode of Deleted WrestleZone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Hey everyone, this is J Rod here. Welcome to Deleted WrestleZone. So, this past Wednesday Night War has become very interesting, and of course, great matches from both sides, good storytelling. But let's get started about who won this week. This one was surprise, surprise. It bounced back. AEW won this Wednesday Night War. So, with the views of 731,000 views with the rate of 0.25. NXT received 665,000 views with the rate of 0.18. Now, reason this happens, we always talk about this. Sometimes, the last 2 weeks we saw NXT won the viewership, but not the rate. That was AEW. Last year in December, we had a similar situation with there was I think it was last year, yeah, where we had a situation where um, NXT won 2 weeks for both the overall the rates and the views, and now this week has been 2 weeks ago. It became interesting where AEW are still in the top regardless, but that's how it's been. But I have to say, both shows were great. I love some of the matches. I love some of the stories. But I'll tell you which matches from each, from both AEW Dynamite and NXT, were the best ones. And hopefully you guys can get a clear picture of what happened this Wednesday. So let's get started with the winners of this week, AEW. Alright, so we're back. So it started out with Cody being in the control center, just trying to figure out what's his purpose being there or something, or trying to scout out who will be in the finals. Now, we do know there was Sammy, Darby Allin, um, Kip Sabian, Lance Archer, and his brother Dustin. So basically, it was like, okay, how's this going to go? But luckily, um, that night they only had two of the remaining matches that they needed for the TNT Championship Tournament. So it started out with Darby Allin versus Sammy. Now this was more of a rematch that this was coming from Revolution. If you recall, before Revolution, there was a feud between both Darby Allin and Sammy. Inner Circle took out Darby Allin, but Sammy was the one that gave the more damage when he crushed him with his skateboard around his throat, And that match happened. Darby Allin won the match, but this time it was all for all because this is important to everyone who's gonna win the first ever AEW TNT Championship uh, title. But it was great. There were certain moments. This is where Darby Allin played a lot of the psychology in this story, trying to bring up. He knows he's going to be in pain, but how much pain can he put Sammy? And that's one of the things that we can see when it comes to in-ring work. Um, there was a part where um, Darby Allin takes off his shoes and try to hurt his feet, and they continued on with Sammy just wrestling with one shoe on. It was the way he was said. It was kind of reminded me of like the whole Kevin and Marshall Von Erich, that type of thing. But except he had that one shoe open. But it was interesting, and Darby was putting a bit more of the submission tactics on this one. I had to say this is one of those in-ring works that really got my attention. This is one of the matches that that I liked for that night. But sadly, it ended where Darby was about to do the coffin drop. He was caught by Sammy. Sammy tried to give him like a somewhat version of the go to sleep, but Darby caught it, and then he put Sammy in what is called the Last Supper. And it was interesting. I love the match how it went. So Darby advances, so he will face for the third time in his career in AEW Cody. So now that match has been set. So the next thing we see is a video package from Matt Hardy. Now this is the part that got me kind of interesting. Basically, he's been in a feud now with the Inner Circle. Basically, what? Let's go back when Chris Jericho was talking about the Bloods and Guts event that he and Inner Circle are going to destroy the Elite. All of a sudden, we see like the whole thing with Vanguard. Now, Jericho's mind, he believes that Matt Hardy made the wrong choice, aligning himself with the Elite. He believes that the Elite are nothing. They're a bunch of half-witted morons that are not the most dominant force. But besides that, we see Matt Hardy with the broken gimmick that we've always seen, and then we see the immortal gimmick, like his regular looking setup, and he gave a clear view about what he's trying to saying that he's not going to allow Jericho to destroy the Elite because he believes that they laid the foundation of the four pillars, meaning Cody, the Bucks, and Kenny, people that he respects. And of course, they are the EVPs of AEW. So he is inviting Sammy to come and face him at his compound, which is going to be the Elite deletion or something. But I don't know if you people think if I'm crazy or you guys have that same thought. What happens if they recruit him to be part of the Elite? You know, I'm like, well, I don't mind that either. You know, I mean, at some point we see this type of stable factions where one guy leaves and another one replaces him. I mean, we've seen that already with Marty Scurll, who decided not to rejoin. But that's just me talking, but or wishful thinking, however it is. Next up, we have the. Ooh, this one is very interesting with Taz. He was displaying the techniques about Kenny Omega. Two of them in particular. One was the V trigger. He was explaining how does it work, how does this technique is effective when it comes to in-ring work, and he gave this explanation. And the same thing he did with the snapping dragon. You know, the one where he has his arms behind you and then he just pulls back and kind of like a snapdragon. That is where things got interesting. Kenny was in a match against Alan Angels. Now, much of the match they were calling Alan Eagles, Alan Angles, so it was so bizarre. But this is where much of the match was kept going. Basically, this was supposed to be like a squash match because Alan Angles is like one of those wrestlers we don't even know who he is, and they were keeping going. And I have to say, Alan Angles didn't make a bit of an impression on me. You know, even though he's an unknown, I can see maybe down the line he can work with AEW, but we just gotta wait and see what QT Marshall says. I'm assuming that this guy must be from that school or just independents from the general area. I'm not sure. But the way this match ended was very interesting. I don't know if you guys know this. So did the Square Circle Cycle Battle. We've always known Kenny to use his finisher, the One Wing Angel. But this time he used the V trigger. Now, I don't know if he's planning to abandon the One Wing Angel. We're not sure. But I hope we get to see it again because that is one of those moves that has always been recognizable to us who's been a Kenny Omega fan, especially me. I'm a Kenny Omega fan. So it ended with Kenny winning the match with the V trigger. Then we see like a little video interesting story about Scorpio Sky. You know, I must tell you guys the truth. I saw Scorpio Sky once before. This was in December of 2017 at the Soquam Casino for the Rey Mysterio Lucha Wonderland. He was in a match with a mixed tag team match again with Tail Valkyrie versus Joey Ryan and who is now his ex-wife Lauren James. At the time, they were still married, and it was a good match. That kind of introduced me to Joey Ryan. But Scorpio Sky was one of those wrestlers I don't even know until I started seeing him in Ring of Honor. So he talks about a bit of his life story, which it's always important, like to know who these guys are, and it will continue more about what made him a success. Now, do I think Scorpio Sky is a great talent? Yes. I mean, no disrespect that he's part of the SCU, that he needs to step away. He should learn how to be more of the, how do I say, singles competitor within SCU. We can see both Kazarian and Daniels maybe becoming tag team champions down the line. But we can see Scorpio Sky either obtaining the TNT Championship or the world title. But I feel maybe he should gun for the world title because that's something we can see him in if you're a Scorpio Sky fan or someone who can see the potential in him. And then we got the match, which was the match we finally wanted to see. Orange Cassidy making his AEW debut against Jimmy Havoc. This match was already been set from last week, where what's his name? Kip Sabian got in a match with Chucky T, and Jimmy Havoc got involved when he attacked Orange Cassidy when Orange Cassidy was getting in the face of Kip Sabian. But it was interesting how it turned out. But of course, at some point during the match, Penelope Ford tried to interfere, so did Kip Sabian, but it didn't work. Apparently, we got to see Orange Cassidy making his first win in AEW, even though he lost the Pac at Revolution. And that will always be a memorable match for all of his fans who are Orange Cassidy fans. But I think it was a good one. This is one of the second great matches of the night, so it beats out of all of them. And we finally get this update about MJF, that he's injured, that he injured himself during gambling, that it took place before they decided to the last few times they were in Daly's place. If you recall, it was that night where the Elite and Inner Circle were in that match. But yeah, but cutting after that, we jump into Wardlow being in a squash match against Lee Johnson, another wrestler we've seen so far, who also was part of QT Marshall's school. Man, Wardlow really impressed. Some people are saying, why didn't Wardlow just start wrestling the moment he arrived? I'm like, I don't know exactly, because I've seen stories like this where you have these guys you don't even know. We're seeing that right now with Camille as well. Because we have, since then, Camille, we never seen her wrestle. We only seen her by Nick Aldis' side or Tom Latimer, her real life boyfriend. But it's the same thing. But I know many people are excited to see Wardlow wrestle. So this was a squash match, if you guys must know. And then we see a video from the Dark Order. This one was interesting. This one, it had Preston Vance, a wrestler we've seen. If you guys don't know who he is, he was one of those wrestlers that appeared with Shawn Spears and he abandoned him afterwards. And then they put in where this football player who injured himself, was losing everything, so he joined the Dark Order. And of course, Brody Lee was trying. People were still comparing Brody Lee, that he's trying to take shots at Vince. I don't think this one kind of fits into it. But he became the new member of Calling Him 10. I'm sure we might see 10 down the line. So it'll be interesting to see. But later we jump in with Brody Lee being in a squash match against Justin Law. But of course he won that match. But after that he got in the face of Marco Stunt, and now it's been announced that Marco Stunt will face off Brody Lee the following week, which is really interesting to see. And then we see it's already been announced in the interview where Orange Cassidy won, but the best friends did not appreciate that Penelope Ford and Kip Sabian got him also. It was announced at the end of the show that they're going to be in a match against the best friends, both Havoc and Sabian against the best friends. Falls Count Anywhere match. I think that's what it is, but we'll just got to see what's going to happen later. Now, we see a little segment of the Bubbly Bunch. This one wasn't that good as the first one, but I mean, I don't know how you people feel about it. So, it was kind of interesting. Then we moved on to finally with the main event. Dustin Rhodes along with Brandy Rhodes facing Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford. The stipulation is if Dustin doesn't win this match, he will retire. And throughout Twitter, people were rooting. Now, this one was a good match, and I have to say it was very, very interesting. Much of the in-ring work that we normally see with Dustin. There were times that Kip Sabian was keeping most of the momentum, but of course, you got to remember he may have won if Penelope Ford got involved, making sure he makes the win. But Dustin had Brandy by his side. Brandy is trying to give him some encouragement, knowing that there's a lot at stake here, and that's what makes good storyline. That's what Dustin and Cody are all about, giving a great story, and that's something that has always been a factor in what they have done, especially back in Double or Nothing. But the best part during the match is where um, Penelope Ford tried to get involved and got in the face of Brandy, and Brandy speared her, and because of that, Kip Sabian lost the ball on lost track of the ball, and he let Dustin Rhodes pull the Canadian Destroy. Now that he calls it the Code Red. Now, I'm gonna stop somewhere. That name has already been used before, and that name is done by the Amazing Red. He has that flip where you grab by the shoulders and land on the opponent, land on part of the back of the neck or something. I don't know. I don't know if there will be issues over that because of the name, but we'll just wait and see. But anyway, back to the match. It ended where Dustin won and he advances to the semifinals against Lance Archer. So we don't know yet how this is going to be played. Now, if I don't know, I have this strange prediction that if Cody beats Darby Allin and if Dustin somehow beats Lance Archer, we may see part 2 of the Rhodes brothers facing off for the TNT title. Now, this is going to be an interesting match, and that is something we definitely can't see. And we just got to wait next week. So, that is it for the AEW Dynamite stuff. So, let's move on with NXT. Alright, so we're back with NXT. So, it started out with Velveteen Dream came out. It was supposed to be Velveteen Dream versus Finn Balor, but from what I was told, that there was an incident that took place backstage. I don't know what it was. So it was just Velveteen Dream, and here comes when he was talking. Here comes Undisputed Era. We haven't seen Adam Cole. He's been home, just trying not to get involved. Now Adam Cole's still in the storyline. They're going. He feels that Velveteen Dream does not earn the right to have a title shot. So Velveteen Dream will do whatever it takes to get a title shot. That is something that he still now. It was 3-on-1, so it became Adam Cole, Roderick Strong, and Bobby Fish. No Kyle O'Reilly. But at the midst of the beatdown, here comes Keith Lee to make the save. So basically, it was later on set up Keith Lee teaming with Velveteen Dream versus Undisputed Era's Strong and Adam Cole. So that was the main event of the night. So we'll get to there when we get there. Then we see a women's tag team match, Raquel and Dakota Kai versus Tegan Knox and Shotzi Blackheart. Now, how did this whole thing happen? If you all recall, last week, Tegan Knox was in the match against Raquel Gonzalez, but before that, Shotzi Blackheart was part of a gauntlet match, and she was standing tall until Dakota Kai showed up, but Raquel Gonzalez cost her the match, and last week, Dakota Kai was facing Rachel Gonzalez and took out Dakota Kai, making sure that Tegan Knox wins. So that's how the whole thing ended. It was a good match. I'm not gonna lie. I think I like this women's tag team match. Um, we still don't know yet if any of these two teams will face off Alexa Bliss or Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross for the titles. Hopefully they can. We can see one of them try to obtain it. Then we jump in with two matches of the Group A of the Interim NXT Cruiserweight Championship Tournament. The first one was Jake Atlas and Drake Maverick. Now, before we jump into this match, please keep in mind, last week, Drake Maverick put out on Twitter that about the situation where he was let go, but he's allowed to compete in his last three matches. So that means this is two more to go. Um, we don't know why they mentioned this. People are saying, is this a shoot or is it work? That is something I don't know, because if it's a work, that's gonna be a bad publicity for WWE to have. Now we did see this with Sarah Logan, where people were talking she's gonna show up at SmackDown at Raw last Monday. Didn't happen. I hate to see WWE do this type of situation, but we just don't know yet. I'm still drawing a blank on this one. But it was a good match. I have to say, I don't know Jake Atlas in person, but here, since I'm from uh, California, here in SoCal, I heard a lot of great stories about Jake Atlas. You know, from guys from Level Up, the guys from Ground Zero. I think SoCal Pro, I'm not sure, but Jake Atlas really impressed me a lot. He did some interesting finisher where he did like a cartwheel DDT or something. It was great, and that kind of match is where we need more cruiserweights like that who can be innovative. But right in his post interview, he wanted to talk to Drake Maverick, but Drake is still dealing with the whole situation that's happened last week with him. But like I said, I still don't know if that thing is a shoot or a work. You guys tell me what you guys think about that. What's next? Alright, the next of the interim cruiserweight tournament from Group A, it was Kushida versus Tony Nese. Now, Tony Nese, if y'all recall, he was a previous cruiserweight champion, but he never lost the title. Uh, he never lost the title in a triple threat match. I don't know if he lost it to what's his name, Drew Gulak, before Leo Rush beat him, and then of course Angel Garza, and then Jordan Devlin. But this was a good match with Kushida. Now he was trying to put much of the effort to put Tony Nese in an armbar, like more of the submission technique. But Tony Nese was using a lot of the high flying maneuvers, whatever it was. I have to say it was a pretty good match. You know, I think it was one of the interesting matches between Kushida and Tony Nese. Now, can we see Kushida maybe going all the way to become the interim NXT Cruiserweight? I say him be one of those guys that can do it. You know, that's my prediction. I would love to see Kushida become champion, since we all know where he's from. He's been the junior heavyweight champion in New Japan at least 5 times, or 5 or 6 times. I heard he's tied with Tiger Mask. But yeah, you guys tell me about that. Then we see Timothy Thatcher and Matt Riddle. We don't know what Matt Riddle has as sleeve, but he's trying to put a safe face to the team since Pete Dunne is still stuck in the UK. But we just got to wait and see what's going to happen for that. And then we jump in with Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae. Now, this has become an interesting story where now Johnny is showing a bit of his heelish side, where he said he's sick and tired of people taking advantage, being nice, but they're not being nice back. Candice LeRae did the same thing. She has a new look. Now, they made this one more interesting where they're going into the power couple type of story. Now, do I think this has anything to do with what happened to Champa? Yes, I think this is where they're going to throw in the story. This is my prediction. As much as Gargano and Candice LeRae can go out and say they're going to rule NXT together, you cannot deny what's going to happen now when, I don't know what they're calling Killer Cross or Scarlett Bordeaux now, they're going to attack them and prove they're not the dominant couple as they think they are. Now, we have seen Scarlett Bordeaux and Killer Cross done that type of maneuver outside of WWE long before they were signed. Do I see this coming soon? Yes. So, I think the thing with Tommaso Ciampa was a message. Now, Gargano thinks it's funny, interesting that he got taken out. But I don't think Gargano in his right mind thinks in story-wise, realizing this was a message directly at him. Because if you guys saw that last beatdown match, we saw two couples looking at Gargano and LeRae. And the assumption is that was Cross and Bordeaux. So if that's the story, then we're going to see a battle of the power couples. Who will prevail? That will be an interesting story. Now, let's jump in with Drake Maverick, how he was still feeling down, like he doesn't know what to do. He's like still feeling upset over the loss of Jake Maverick. He just feels like now he's starting to see that his real opponent is not the person who he fought. It's himself, and he just doesn't know if the fans deserve him. I mean, it is emotional how they're putting it, but we just gotta wait and see. Then we jump in with Mia Yim versus this newcomer, Jessica Mia. But I'll skip ahead. Mia Yim won. But post match, here comes the Queen, Charlotte Flair. This is where things become interesting. Charlotte Flair said something that kind of offended Mia Yim. But we'll just gotta wait and see. Now, keep in mind, Io Shirai does hold a contract to get a title shot. So it's still unclear when that's gonna happen. So next week, we will see Charlotte Flair and Mia Yim compete, which is going to be interesting to see. Next match, we see, well, it's put in two video packages. One with Jack Gallagher, where he's now a new type of person. He kind of changed a little bit if you notice the tattoos on his chest and all this other stuff. Like he's reinventing himself. Then we see Chelsea Green, how he's saying that she's that pencil neck geek. Robert Stone claiming Chelsea Green earns the title. She doesn't think he's saying Dakota Kai doesn't deserve it. Does the other girls? But if I were Robert Stone, I wouldn't cross the Queen. But we'll just wait and see how it happens. Then we go to the Group B of the Interim NXT Cruiserweight Tournament. It was the debut match of Hijo del Fantasma and Jack Gallagher. Now, before I end this, before I move on, I'm going to make this announcement regarding the Fantasma. So, let's keep in mind that one. So, this was an interesting match to see. Hijo Fantasma facing Jack Gallagher. I have to say this is a great start for him because his performance down in Mexico has made him what he is. I have to say he pulled up all the spots on this one. And he really impressed me the way he did in NXT. And he won the match. I forgot how he did it. But something happened right after. Now, as much as he was celebrating, these two masked men show up, try to take him, and he just fought off. Now, it's still unclear what is going on. Now, last time I talked about this, I believe the Phantasma was involved with this. Because he wears a mask, and there's two masked guys now. I don't know. Maybe that's wishful thinking of me, or just a theory, however I want to call it. But we just got to wait and see what's going to happen. Since we now know he will continue advancing, so he has one 1-0 in the tournament. So that means he has two more matches to go. Then we have the main event, Velveteen Dream teaming with Keith Lee. Now, before the start of the match, chaos erupted, where Undisputed Era, along with Bobby Fish, were trying to fight it off, but the referee told Bobby Fish to take a hike, that he was ejected. But out of nowhere, here comes Damian Priest and whacked in the throat at Keith Lee. You know, the feud between them is becoming more and more intensive. Damian Priest feels that he deserves the North American title, so he attacked him. Now, Velveteen Dream had no other choice but to continue on without him, and that was more of the advantage. Now, this was not part of Undisputed Era's plan. Basically, Keith Lee had enemies in all fronts. You know, first Dijakovic, then this. But amidst of this, it looked more like Undisputed Era had everything under control. And out of nowhere, Dexter Lumis showed up. This was the last thing that the Undisputed Era did not count on. And man, he gave a great impression taking Undisputed out. And especially when he jumped out of the ring, but made sure Velveteen Dream had the match and took out Fish and Strong. And that's when Velveteen Dream picked up the win. But the ring announcer messed up, saying the winners of the match, Adam Cole. And they kind of messed up. But it's still unclear what is the story now with Dexter Lumis. I mean, do I think that maybe he helped him because if he knows he wins, he gets a title shot? Now, Adam Cole's not going to allow that to happen, but we just got to wait and see it. Now, before I end it, I'm going to announce this, that the next episode is going to talk about Hijo de Fantasma, because I don't know if you know this or not. Hijo de Fantasma lost his mask in the last AAA event called Triple Mania. You see, there's a certain rule that Mexican wrestlers have to follow. When you lose the mask, you're not allowed to rewear it, unless if you're just wearing it and you take off the mask when you're in the ring. We see that with Dr. Wagner Jr. He's done that. But there have been some leniency on this. And the same situation happened with Rey Mysterio when he actually signed with WWE and it came out with the mask, and this caused him to lose his license down in Mexico. But I will do an episode on that the next time, because I feel people need to understand about Hijo Fantasma, about what he's about why is these rules important, why does it matter. They do matter because this could cause a problem, not to WWE, but to the Mexican wrestlers, the luchadors that come from Mexico, because there's rules to follow and they don't want to get in trouble. Rey Mysterio already had that problem once before. But I will explain everything about that on the upcoming episode, where we talk about Hijo Fantasma and the rules of the mask in Lucha Libre. So that is it for today. So hope you guys enjoy this episode. I must bid all of you adieu. So goodbye and have a nice day.